June 1939. Due to the Superman character's popularity after his premiere in Action Comics #1, 1 year ago, National Allied Publications decided to launch an entirely new magazine featuring a single character. Superman #1 appeared on the shelves in the summer of 1939. Superman now also had the distinction of being the first ever hero character featured in more than one comic magazine. Superman #1 arrived on the newsstands a year after the Man of Steel's first appearance in Action Comic #1 to support his continuing rise in popularity. Every issue of Action Comics was selling more than the month before. Superman #1 was so popular and a surprise hit that it had 3 printings. The comic was likely planned as a one-shot to cash in as an easy way to reprint the earliest Action Comics appearances. There is no number on #1. The book was a huge success, selling 500,000 copies of a first printing, so they rushed out a second printing, 250,000 more copies sold, and finally a third printing had 150,000 copies, with a total of 900,000 copies circulated, making it the best-selling comic book of all time at this point, far ahead of any competition. A massive success which led to the boom in publication and demand of superhero-related comic books, which would create the golden age of comic books. And Superman #1 is such a major, key, important book. It is the 3rd most valuable comic book of all time in the Overstreet Price Guide. In many ways, this is the most important comic book ever published, as it was the one that made the first immediate impact on society, immediate high sales, breaking sales records, and helped usher the boom of an entire new wave of demand for a new genre, making these characters household names. Superman #1 had a 10-cent cover price, 68 pages. Its official on-sale date was May 18th, 1939. Superman is featured on the cover, drawn by Joe Shuster and Leo O'Mealia. This is an early superhero comic book cover, and it would later be reprinted in Superman Annual #1 in 1960 from DC Comics. The cover is from the opening Shuster panel in the Superman story in Action Comics #10, and would later be found in Superman Annual #1. Superman is featured throughout the entire issue as he is the dedicated sole character, the first time this has ever happened for a superhero strip. The first one is a 2-page Superman comic story by the team of Siegel and Shuster, which are Superman's creators. The Superman strip features Superman, Ma Kent, and Pa Kent with their first appearance introduction. And this would be later reprinted in Superman Annual #2 in 1960. And this is the first version that mentions Krypton and his foster parents. Clark Kent Gets a Job is the next Superman story, 4 pages from the team of Siegel and Shuster, and features George Taylor, Sims, Evelyn Curry, and the villain B. Carroll. This would later be reprinted in Superman from the 30s to the 70s, published in 1971. This is new material, newly drawn for this issue. Superman wears red boots. The story has no masthead or byline, and the story continues in the next sequence. The next strip is The Coming of Superman. This is an 11-page strip from Siegel and Shuster featuring Superman, George Taylor, the first appearance of Lois Lane, Evelyn Curry, the unnamed governor, B. Carroll, Senator Barrows, and Alex Greer. And this was originally from Action Comics #1. This would later next appear in famous first edition C61 in 1979. Clark Kent is hired as a reporter for the Daily Star newspaper in this sequence. Superman wears blue boots in this reprinted story. The next strip is Revolution in San Monte, a 12-page strip from Siegel and Shuster, and this is reprinted from Action Comics #2. Scientific Explanation of Superman's Amazing Strength is a 1-page strip from Siegel and Shuster, later reprinted in famous first edition C61 in 1979. This strip goes on to explain how Superman has such strength and powers. It's adapted but not reprinted from page 1 of Action Comics #1. The Blakely Mine Disaster is a 12-page strip featuring Superman, written by Jerry Siegel with art by Joe Shuster, and this features a strip originally printed in Action Comics #3 in 1938 and later reprinted in famous first edition C61 in 1979. Superman Plays Football is a 12-page strip from Siegel and Schuster that appears next, featuring Superman, Tommy Burke, Wallace Dodd, and the villain Coach Randall. This originally was printed in Action Comics number 4. Boys and Girls, meet the creators of the one and only Superman, America's Greatest Adventure strip. This is a one-page text article about Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel. And this features the creators and gives a bio of both of them, making this the first time that new comic book creators were given any spotlight. And it also showcased how they were working, writing, and drawing 4 other strips every month for DC Comics, making them the most busy creative team at DC in the early days. Biff Duggan is a 2-page Superman text story from Siegel and Schuster. And this would later be reprinted in Famous First Edition 61 in 1979. There's a promo ad for Action Comics number 14, which would be the best-selling issue of that title up to this date. Sales were definitely increasing every single month, proving the popularity of Superman. And there is a 1-page Superman illustration from Joe Shuster. This would later be reprinted in Famous First Edition 61 in 1979. The illustration is used for the Supermen of America Club. The original has a dashed line to the right where this pinup could be cut out, which none of the reprinted issues have. And this is printed on the back cover. This important book has always had a high value. Even though a lot of the contents are reprints, this historic book is nevertheless the 3rd most valuable comic book of all time and would lead the way to create the popularity of superheroes and make Superman the longest running, most popular superhero of all time.